What's up, everybody? Before we get started here, I just wanted to remind you to watch the video as long as you can possibly stand to see my face on your computer screen or your TV or your phone. It would really help my channel out to get some more hours, so every extra minute you can watch helps out a lot. I also wanted to note, in these next clips, my voice was a little low and, I don't know, monotone or whatever. Well, the day before I had gone to the monster truck show and I yelled a lot to try and get a free t-shirt and I didn't get it, but yeah, I ended up losing my voice really bad, so my voice is a little off in these next few clips, so please try to contain your excitement. And yeah, thanks. What's up, everybody? We are back out in the shop here playing with this roto-tiller again. So I've the last thing we left off on was I had pulled it all apart and we saw a little bit of carnage in there. So I have now cleaned everything up, and as you can see, there is still quite a bit of rust. But before we go any further, I just want to explain that if this thing makes it through my one project, I'll be happy. That's all I care out of this thing. I didn't pay much for it, so if it makes one project, I'm good. So I know a lot of the bearings and the surfaces that shouldn't be rusty are pretty rusty, so we're just gonna have our fingers crossed that this thing is gonna last, you know, a season. So this is where we're at now. You can see we got some pretty heavy rust on like these on these gears and stuff like that. The case isn't too bad. I guess down there it's got a little rust, but I ain't too worried about the paint and everything. We're gonna completely pack and coat everything with grease to make sure any moisture doesn't really have a chance to intrude anywhere for a while. But like the teeth on the gears they're there, so we'll call that a win. You can see some of these other items here, like these splines, had to clean those up, and everything is moving freely as it should. Sorry, I don't remember which parts have. That's a solid. This guy here. This one here was actually pretty bad. So this is like one of the shafts. I don't know exactly how much this shaft will spin. Let me just pull it out real quick to show you what's inside of these things. So there is roller bearings in there, and those roller bearings are really bad shape. This one was probably the worst. It was actually rusted pretty much solid. Just kind of kept soaking it with brake clean and spinning my finger around in it and soaking it back out with paper towels. And it freed up now. It spins freely now with my finger, so at least it's moving now. That one would have been an instant fail if I was able to keep it running. But we should be able to hopefully get a season out of it now. And I'll go through and I'll pull this out and put grease in, all that stuff, and make it real good before I final assemble this stuff. But I don't know, there's just all sorts of things. There's a little O-ring here that's actually in good shape. Plastic thing, I don't know what that is. You know, that stuff. This has some sort of bushing in it. So we're cleaned up. You can see a little mark where the chain was rubbing on the case. That's the main drive chain. But I think it'll last. I think it'll work out pretty good. Let's look at some of the other stuff here. These are the smaller components that I pulled out here and cleaned up. They don't look horrible. Get the tools off the parts. This is kind of like your shift fork or whatever they would call it. This is the big chain that we're reusing. You can see it does have some rust on it. And like some of these surfaces, boy, I just picked up the worst side to show you, didn't I? These are pretty rough, but they're still rolling freely. So I think we'll be okay for a little while. This chain is kind of expensive anyway, so I wouldn't want to have to buy a new one of those to begin with. I think we'll be fine with that, though. It seems to have its full strength as long as the bearings last a little while. This is kind of my random washers. I have to figure out where they go, and that snap ring, I'm not even sure if that goes to this thing or not. I gotta look through the exploded views for the part buildups on this to find out where all this stuff goes. But yeah, I mean, it's all seems pretty usable now. It's just a tiller, so we should be Oops. We should be pretty good on this stuff. Try to keep some of this stuff together. Oh, pick you up. So I know you go here, so I'm trying to do this through the camera. So yeah, we're good. You can see there was a water level there where this thing was probably just sitting in the water. But the teeth are acceptable. And they got some weird wear on them, like right there is a big old gap in the tooth, but I think that's where the original small chain probably was sitting when it rotted out. And this is I didn't really clean this thing up because I'm not reusing it. And that's the old chain that broke in there. It's just a rusty mess, so I ain't too worried about that. Let me show you some of the, oh, here's the other half of the case. I got a bunch of sawdust on it earlier when I was cutting some wood, but you know, the cases actually look pretty good. You can see it's got the bearings in there. I've cleaned those out as best I can. We'll pack everything with grease, and I'll pack as much grease into this whole cavity as I can just to try and keep moisture out. And we got the motor sitting here, it's just chilling. I forget what I was trying to figure out. Trying to find a gas cap for this thing. It's kind of hard to find the parts and stuff, the part numbers. That was actually kind of expensive. Well, 18 bucks, I guess. Not too expensive, but trying to do this cheap. So these are the new parts that we got. So we got the new small chain. Probably can't see anything because it's in a bag. There you go. These are Amazon specials. No crazy name brands. This is the gasket for the 2 case halves. So that'll be good. I think this is 20 bucks. This is 20 bucks. We got two tubes of grease. This is some, like, what they call it, GL1 grease. This is what they're supposed to be used in these. So hopefully, I think 2 should be plenty. 2020. Oh yeah, and I think that was about 20 bucks. And then the gas cap was about another 20 bucks. So I'm basically putting another 80 bucks into this thing. So with my 80 bucks plus the $100 this thing cost me, less than $200, hopefully I can get it to work for the project we need. So, all right, well, I'm gonna start, I think, greasing things up and start trying to figure out how all this stuff goes back together right now. So let's see how it goes. We are back together. Check this all out. Took me a little bit of time, but I figured out where all those little washers went and how all this stack up of gears went. It's probably hard to see because everything's so covered in grease, but I did put those 2 full tubes of grease spread through this and the other half of the case, so should be plenty for it for now. I was really just throwing it in there at the end there to use it all up, so I'm not going to touch it and show you how it works because I got this grease all over me and it's such a pain in the ass. But yeah, basically that's the shifter fork block thing. It drags this gear back and forth to engage which gears are which. There's your tine gear, and then just above it is I believe the forward gear, and then neutral would be to put it right in the middle where it's not doing anything, and then this gear on the end here would be reverse, and that's your reverse idler, I guess we would call it. So yeah, everything seems to be working. I kind of just ran through it, made sure everything spins the correct way as it should. You see we got our new gasket just sitting on there. I wish there was a cleaner way to do it, but messing with all that grease sure just makes a mess out of everything. So we're gonna slam this thing together here real quick. This is the other half of the case. I just threw as much grease as I could in there. And then this thing does have a grease fitting somewhere on the case. I forget where it was, where they say every season you're supposed to pump in a bunch more grease, another ounce or whatever they want. But I figure, hey, if it makes it through first season, then we're good. And then I can start pumping more grease in there as we go. But I think we are doing good. We're making progress. It looks good. It seems to operate right. I don't have any questionable gears or anything. It's hard to see, but that's the chain there that was broken originally. It just goes to a little tiny sprocket way up under there. So, yeah, hopefully I can get this thing back together here in a few minutes, and rolling the rest of it together will be quick. It's just getting these halves all situated. I guess the hardest thing is going to be putting this case on, the top piece. I kind of got it propped up so it's sitting flat, and trying to get Obviously these two long shafts will be easy to line up. But then all these other shafts, which, you know, some of them have a little bit of play because they're sitting on, you know, floating shafts and stuff. So it's going to be hard to get everything lined up perfectly so that the case can flop down flat and then I can run all the bolts in. So let's just try it and see what happens. All right, there we are. Trying to keep this video short and simple. So we got the two halves together. You can see it's not much in there. Let's see what we had. This was the side that was down before, so this is the side I had to put on. Basically just run these little tiny bolts all the way around the whole case, around where the gasket was, and then a couple random ones. So it's all tightened up. I've played with the shifter and, you know, spin the input off the engine to make sure the drive axles and the tines do the correct things, and they do, so that is awesome. The only thing I don't like is shifter's a little sloppy. Maybe I can I can pull that, oh geez, sorry. Pull that little pin out and see if there's a way to maybe tighten things up a little bit more. We'll see, maybe, hopefully the bolts just wore out. I do realize I forgot to tighten these three. I gotta tighten those down still. And yeah, there's that little zerk that you can add more grease in for servicing. But we are in and everything seems to be working right. So I think our next clip we'll do here will be having this thing completely back together, because that's basically the next step, is just throw it all back together. Should be pretty simple. All right. And we are done. Check it out. We're all back together. I have fired it up. It runs. Everything is operational. When I got it, these shifters would not really move. Now I can move them. Yeah, all we're waiting on is the fuel cap, and the carburetor doesn't need to be gone through. It's pretty gummed up, I think. Plus I've seen something that looks disconnected in there. There's a, it must be for the governor or something. Something's not quite put back together right. I think this thing has been apart before, so it's no big deal though. Yeah, I'm happy. It works. It goes forward, it goes back, and the tines work at the right time. So I think that's it.